Hello, welcome to the week ahead for June the 3rd. And I am recording this on Sunday, June the 2nd, and we can see the beautiful, beautiful energy that is going on right now. So I'm just going to pop this ahead a couple of hours. I've been reflecting on Gemini energy and the way that we might come to Gemini energy. I was mowing grass today and getting those lovely allergies. I feel like allergies could be a very distinct kind of representation of Gemini energy because at this time of year, we get the pollinators spreading things. We then get, those cottonwood trees that release I'm drawing a blank right now, but that cause sometimes some allergies. There is this feeling of things blowing and moving and changing. And I was under a lilac bush watching bees come and pollinate, and they don't stay in the same spot for very long. They flit here and there, and that energy is beautiful, and it can be overwhelming and quite tiresome. So as we look at this week ahead, resting into and knowing how the heck is it June, I have just a quick quote to start the week. And I want you to think about this week being the energy of the middle path or trying to cultivate the middle path. And the fact that I want to think about transactions, that change is actually transactional. So we're going to get into all of that stuff as well. But just this quick quote here from a lovely book by Isabel Abbott. It's called Safe House. And it says here, storms rage outside, and inside we make shelter of paper ships to sail away on, windows and worlds of pages and ink. Ooh. And I've been thinking about how a lot of times we can escape into the world of busy, and how it can be wonderful to be a journaler, to be someone who does new moon rituals and routines, and how sometimes we have to take a break from that. I actually haven't journaled for several months. And at the beginning of my astrologer, me and Tamara starting our business, I probably journaled every single new moon and full moon for sure, but almost every single day for several years. And so, having not journaled, I get to Gemini season, I'm like, oh my goodness. There is this moment or feeling of like I have missed out, or, you know, it maybe was a bit of a reality check, but there's also some skepticism that comes through with this Gemini energy that we might be being asked to take a look at. Now, I want to, this week has a lot of astrology, and we get this lovely new moon in Gemini, which I think is going to be huge. It's conjunct Venus in Gemini. So that feels really lovely and good. This new moon is on June the 6th. So that is actually Thursday at 5:37 a.m. and it's happening at 16 degrees of Gemini. And you can go to your Cozy Cosmos calendar and actually see the Sabian symbol for the new and full moons. There is an energy here with that Gemini new moon that it's really interesting. We're also getting a Gemini Venus Cazimi. So the Venus and the Sun are going to come together this week as well. And just looking at my chart here on June the 4th, Venus in Gemini conjuncts the Sun in Gemini at 14 degrees. So that's on Tuesday. And this is a big transit, and it's also really lovely to have the new moon happening after this, but and also the moon is waning this week, right? That is what happens right before a new moon. It's getting smaller, it is releasing, it is surrendering, it's letting go. And so the energy right now isn't, we might be feeling the desire to be going full throttle, to be active, to be getting stuff done, but the body, the tides, the energy is actually asking us to release, to surrender and let go. And then on Thursday the moon will be reborn. And this new moon in Gemini, we have Gemini, Mercury in Gemini. Mercury moves to Gemini on the 3rd, so on Monday. And so Mercury has everything it needs in Gemini. It's at home in Gemini. And so this makes this new moon a little bit different. It definitely brings lots of ideas and talking and social communicative energy, more, being more active mentally as well as physically could be coming through. But then on Sunday, very late Saturday, Sunday, we get Mars moving into Taurus, which is a very different energy than Aries. So at the end of the week, we get this kind of reality check, maybe even some skepticism, some thoughts towards everything that may have been ramping up needs to become stable, needs to really feel into consistencies, and we might have some security for improved resources. We get 2 full moons in Capricorn in the next month or so. So there's a lot of energy here, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of stuff going on. And one really big date that I want to bring up is this Venus Sun Cazimi. So the Sun and Venus coming together. This is a check-in point on our Venus story. For those of you that have traveled the Venus journey with us, for those of you who got a year ahead reading, you likely had some conversation in June around this Venus Sun coming together. Okay. And it's very important. I want you to look back to June of 2016. So this was the last time that there was a Venus Cazimi in Gemini. Remembering that Venus follows cycles or star points of 8 years. I really want you to look back and see what was going on for you. It's very, very interesting to me as I was Googling June 2016 in my email. There was some big themes around my house and keeping my house clean. My sister had actually tried to hire or gift us having a housekeeper come and clean. And housekeeping has come up in my awareness in the last week twice. And so it's really weird to then search and see that. So I'm like, oh, maybe this means I'm supposed to hire a housekeeper or maybe be a little bit better of a housekeeper. um, I also was gearing up or had gone back to work after my 3rd kid and was feeling very overwhelmed. And I ended up actually quitting work in August. I also was a part of a board. I was actually moving into the president position on a daycare play school board. And so that's very interesting because I am on a swimming board this year. So there's some parallels, some stuff coming up that's similar. So look back to June of 2016, and you're going to want to layer it with where you have Gemini in your natal chart. So for me, it's my 2nd house, money. Also, taxes was a big theme in 2016 around this time. Funny that I'm, finishing and really taking a look at my current taxes right now, and I never understood why I could never get our taxes done until June. And I really think it's because my based on my natal chart, Gemini is my second house. So it's almost like I have to wait till Gemini season to get that action, to get that drive within that part of my chart. So considering those things, thinking about those things, also thinking like what that house that Gemini is in for me, what seeds, what intentions do I want to plan for this year? Okay. And we also have the on June 8th that Mars will go into Taurus. And then just, the energy after this week really shifts in a different way. When we go into Cancer season, which will come on June 20th, the summer solstice, right? The energy will really shift. And I feel like there is kind of this doing doing things twice type of energy. I also think babies is very Gemini Taurus into Gemini energy, like baby animals, pollinators this time of year, like you can kind of see um twins energy of these babies, and also doing things twice. I actually participated in a branding this weekend, and the cows all pretty much being run up the chute, I turned around and had to be done twice. So it was really interesting to pay attention to that. There are things this week you might have to do two times. But going into Cancer season and then Leo season, and then Leo Virgo, we get a Mercury retrograde. We're going to go into retrograde season for all of the outer planets. They're going to start one by one turning retrograde. The summer doesn't feel super straightforward, super gung ho, super like energy moving forward. Okay. So, and Cancer energy is quite slower, sensual, an energy of Venus, of enjoying, of vacationing. So summer vacation energy could feel really strong this year at the end of June, beginning of July. Now, use your breath this week. Use the power of just simply breathing. And, if you feel anxious or uptight at any time, I want you to close your eyes, put your hand on your heart, and just do some box breathing. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, and do that, 3 or 4 rounds of that. It's amazing what our breath can do to return us to an energy of stabilization. And just as a swim coach, when I were doing hard sprints in a set, oftentimes we'll sprint, say 50 meters, 100 meters. We're getting ready to go again, but our breath is like crazy. And I've really noticed for kids, for anyone that's swimming, you can actually, like, instead of just standing at the end of the lane and breathing so heavy, it's like, okay, you're going to do some bobs now. You're going to go above the water and then go under your water, and you kind of hold your breath a bit, but also focus on slowly releasing the breath underwater. That helps you bring your heart rate down. It helps you breathe and intentionally think about the breath at the end of that set. I went swimming today, so this is kind of why I'm thinking of some of these things, but using and harnessing that breath, it's something that we always have, that our physical bodies regulate and do so much for us. But if you feel anxious or if you feel overwhelmed, simply coming back to the breath can be such a major thing. And we are going to see breath work circles, breath work stuff really explode with that Jupiter in Gemini. This is something that we are being asked to probably take a look at. And remembering, like, how has that Jupiter now influenced us? It also brings justice and learning to the Gemini part of our chart, to the world. And I think we're going to see some growth for the school system, some changing, some learning and justice, maybe even in the school systems for, kids in that early learning type of thing. We might also see like some Toastmasters energy, networking, sales, all of those things will potentially boom. And with Jupiter in Gemini, I also think of debate and conversations, really interesting people, again, being very busy, overwhelmed. Neighbors are a theme that are going to be really big in this coming year. So focusing on and thinking about your own neighbors and how maybe you could develop or strengthen a relationship with them. It's interesting. This week I said to my husband, we've ate out, like got takeout quite a bit this last week. And, do our neighbors, are they like noticing every single time we do this? So thinking about your neighbors and your relationship to your neighbors, how does that influence you? How is it affecting you? How might there be some nervous anxiety? Again, nervous system regulation, breath work, really big. What do you want to teach and inspire in the world right now? Now, again, I'm going to run through really quickly all of the aspects that we are going to see this week. So, coming off of Sunday, we had Jupiter trining Pluto and Mercury in Taurus, sextiling Neptune in Pisces. And this is really interesting. Neptune gets to the very last 10 minutes of Pisces, but it's not going to go into Aries. It gets right to the very end of the zodiac, but then it's going to retrograde back. June 3rd, so Monday, we get the sun sextiles the North Node. We get the Venus in Gemini sextiling the North Node, and we get Mercury in Gemini trining that Pluto. And this could bring some, I think of microdosing the news with this. Some big world events could really be, on conversation row, coffee row, and maybe some not so good news. Yeah, and then on June 4th, so Tuesday, we get Mercury conjunct Jupiter. And this is really like big information, optimistic conversations. It also could be like too much, too soon, too fast. There could be the energy of excess, of, different ways that we come to data and how that might be influencing us. We also, on the 4th of June, get Venus conjunct the sun at that 14 degrees. And again, this is a check-in point from that retrograde that happened in the sign of Leo. And oh my goodness, do I have a story for that? So having Venus retrograde in Leo brought about me and my husband renting a house in town. And we actually had an offer into a home, sitting down with the lawyer to sign the papers. And she says, "Oh, something isn't zoned right, and you're not going to be able to get insurance. This could be a problem with the bank." And basically, the house was sold incorrectly. And we're not sure what's going to happen. So this is the sun and Venus coming together. This is a check-in point of that retrograde, and it's like, what are the facts? What do we really believe here? And what's going to happen with um, Gemini being my second house of resources, physical, tangible things. And for my husband, it's his eighth house. And he has Venus in Gemini. this is really interesting. I can't wait to see what happens this week. I will report back. But um, the other Cazimi happened in August of 2023. So look back and consider your Leo part of your chart and your Gemini part of your chart. What story might you be having this check-in point that actually could be really good? It could also be like a course correction in this Venus in Leo star point, which again started with the retrograde in Venus was in Leo from June to October of 2023. Okay. We also have on June 8th, Venus in Gemini square Saturn in Pisces. Again, this is a sobering energy. Pay attention to your relationships on the 8th. That is Saturday. This could be like a moment of like, ooh, like I really see you for what you are. Or I also think because we have this could be like businesses spending or needing to spend some money. This could be a moment of spiritual businesses being like, oh, like I don't have the disclaimer on my website. And so I'm getting in trouble for something. If you are a spiritual entrepreneur, really taking a look at like your terms of conditions and stuff like that could be a good use of that Venus square Saturn. Venus also kind of representing business and that sort of stuff too. And then on Sunday, we have the Sun in Gemini square Saturn in Pisces as well. So that Venus square Saturn, the Sun squares Saturn, and also on Sunday, Mercury in Gemini sextiles the North Node in Aries. And so there could be, kind of this skepticism or bubble that kind of gets popped. That is what the energy feels like to me. Now, I wanted to talk a tiny bit of human design because I find it very interesting. Venus on June the 2nd, so that's actually today, Sunday, is moving into the gate of change. So, gate 35. And this energy feels quite interesting to me. Now, one thing I want to talk about before we get there is that that Venus also in her conversation, in her travels, remembering she's in the underworld, which doesn't feel easy. She is moving from the, let me just find this here, from the immersion phase into the transmutation phase. So this actually happens on June 4th. But this is really quite interesting. And I'm going to show you a picture here. Venus in the immersion phase spends approximately 50 days. Okay. And so this is a time where the Queen of Heaven is pulled away from the world by an inward force and prepares to rediscover her divine essence from within. And so this has been her disappearance from the morning sky, and she's getting very close to the sun, right? We're going to have that Cazimi this week. And so on the 4th, she moves into what we call the immersion, from the immersion phase to the transmutation phase. And I had to share this with you. This is Adam Gainsbourg's work. He has a fabulous book called The Light of Venus. I definitely recommend it. And she's transitioning from the eastern sky at sunrise into the western sky at sunset. So she's still invisible. She's going to be reborn in July. Like we won't be able to see her in the sky until July, but we're in this transmutation phase that lasts 47 days. Okay. And this marks the midpoint of that Venus cycle. remembering that Cazimi that happens. This is signaling the start of her 9-month orbital return from behind the sun towards Earth again. It begins with Venus furthest from the Earth and on the other opposite side of the sun from the Earth. In our skies, we only see the sun. In astronomy, it's known as the exterior or superior conjunction. Venus's actual speed is extremely fast here, and we experience her movement as slow due to the distance that she is away from us. And there's 4 important sky factors or events occurring in this phase, and I want you to think about what this might mean in your life. Venus invisible sensitizes you to the energy from or dynamics with others and encourages stronger reliance on your inner life. Venus furthest from the earth on the opposite side of the sun sets your feminine qualities underneath your persona, making them more less readily perceived by others and more immediate for you. Venus at her fastest forward speed provides you with strong persistence and a high rate of personal change. Venus approaching her first evening sky appearance can give you a hesitant optimism, impatience, and or an undertone of self-doubt. And so the collective theme here is preparing for our feminine destiny by transmuting and alchemizing our feminine identity, our personal dharma, forging a foundation of open hearted power, and contributing to a transformed society. So, this is a very important midpoint in that Venus cycle. And I'm going to be, I will post a picture of where this is at in the Venus cycle for you in Mighty Networks. Stay tuned for that. But there is this feeling of transmutation, and Adam talks about that the transmutation, his favorite definition is to change into another nature. Changing your nature when it's embodied is permanent. And that leads me to want to talk about this, that change is transactional. Remembering that we affect our environment and our environment affects us. And it's really interesting because I noticed today there was an interaction that happened, and the person in my family kind of blipped through it, like moved very quickly through it, but then was in a bad mood for the rest of the day. And this is what we mean by the environment can affect us, right? We have to pay attention to others' effects on us and how we affect them. So I want you to think this week and pay attention and notice, like, who feels really good when you're around them, who doesn't feel as good. And it doesn't mean that you have to change anything there. It just means to pay attention and notice. Okay? Practice letting go of blame by looking for how your own and others' behaviors are caused by many interactions over time. Letting go of blame. This is something that's been a big work in my codependency work. Resentment creeps up and fills us. So letting go of blame. See things and notice them, but just let go of that blame and remind yourself that all things, including all behaviors, are caused. Don't let those people in your life get away with maybe treating you poorly, yelling, saying something bad. Call them on it, but then we let go of blame and we move on, right? And one of the deepest pieces of these transactions, thinking about those transactional ways we come to things, is that opposites can be true. We can have two sides of things. I want you to think this week. You can want to change and be doing the best you can and still need to do better, try harder, and be more motivated to change. You can be tough and gentle. You can be independent and ask for help. You can want to be alone and want to connect to others. You can be with others and be lonely. Okay. So just thinking about some of those things this week. How are we going to work with this energy? We are going to do it one day at a time. Okay, I am going to end that there. I didn't even move the chart at all. Just quickly going through that, we start on Monday. We can see that moon, sorry, Sunday, the moon is in Taurus on Monday. So that lovely Taurus moon, it'll also come to see Uranus, which could mean like a shocking emotional something coming up. On Tuesday night, it's still in Taurus and it'll move into late Tuesday into Gemini. Then we get that new moon on Thursday, but it spends Wednesday and then Thursday in Gemini. We can see on Thursday night, very late, it's still in Gemini. And on Friday, it goes into Cancer. And this might be where the floodgates come. Just remembering to let yourself cry, let yourself feel on Friday. Maybe take a rest too. Saturday, the moon is in Cancer also. And then very late on, um, is it Saturday or Sunday? Yeah, Sunday it's still in Cancer, and then it moves into Leo on Sunday at in the afternoon. And it'll oppose that Pluto also. So Saturday, Sunday feel a bit intense. Give yourself some rest. Give yourself some time on the weekend. Okay, I'm sending you so much love. I hope you have a fabulous week. And any questions, just ask in Mighty Networks. Bye for now.